Okay, good afternoon. I'm here to report to the population of Trinidad and Tobago. I will be taking a few questions at the very end. The Commissioner of Police has hosted a press conference earlier today and has answered a number of questions on operational matters from the media. This government, led by the Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamla Persad Bissessar, came into office on a promise to the people of Trinidad and Tobago that we would take crime seriously. The government promised to do what was necessary in accordance with the law to intercept criminal activity, to hold those responsible to account, and to empower citizens to protect themselves. We are committed to swift and decisive action to combat crime. The government has been vigilant to take note of certain disturbing trends in the society of recent moment. In particular, we are conscious that there have been 213 homicides so far for the year, and that just this last week we have had some truly horrific crimes that have taken place. It is our understanding that there is now a resurgence in kidnappings and extortion and abductions for ransom. Most of the criminal activity, we are advised, is gang-related. Our intelligence reports suggest, and they suggest strongly, with a degree of high confidence, that the recent murder of a state prosecutor was directly linked to a specific gang. There are a number of gruesome crimes that have taken place across the length and breadth of the country that are also known to be linked to gang activity. We said that we would take decisive action against the gangs, and that is exactly what we are going to do. We say enough is enough. Yesterday afternoon, the government learned that a plot was in the advanced stages of execution from within Trinidad and Tobago's correctional facilities. The object of the plot was clear. It was directed towards violent attacks targeting citizens, persons involved in the justice system at all levels, and others involved in serving this country in the protective services, including police officers. State facilities were also targeted. This government was of the view, in light of the intelligence reports, that immediate action was required to contain, to disrupt, to mitigate these serious threats. The only responsible response for us was to allow the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Defense Force, and specialized units of the armed forces to do what they are entrusted by law to do, and to do so in a manner that would match the severe danger that was posed to all of us as law-abiding citizens, and indeed to the very rule of law. Accordingly, The government decided last evening to advise Her Excellency the President that a state of emergency existed in Trinidad and Tobago. That proclamation was signed at around midnight last night, July the 18th, 2025, when Her Excellency declared that she was satisfied on the basis of what was before her that a state of public emergency had arisen as a result of the occurrence of action that had been taken or was immediately threatened of such a nature and on so extensive a scale as to be likely to endanger the public safety. This morning at about 6 a.m., the police began to interdict known gang members alleged to be involved in these plots in order to disrupt threats to the state and to our citizens. Police actions are continuing and will continue for some time. We are determined to deal with this cancer. The government endorses the actions of the police and armed services. It is our expectation that the law enforcement agencies of the state will continue for the duration of the state of emergency to implement targeted interventions based on intelligence against gangs. These measures constitute the first phase of our multi-pronged strategy for combating crime and course correcting towards a more safe and peaceful society in which the rule of law is respected and upheld. We anticipate that there will be some inconvenience to citizens. We have attempted to keep this to a minimum. We ask for the support of the population and the citizenry to support us in the difficult days that lie ahead. Thank you, and I will take your questions now.
Attorney General, Good afternoon, Attorney General. Akash Samaru, Guardian Media. You said a number of gruesome crimes linked to gang activity led to this action. You mentioned the state prosecutor's murder. Which other violent crimes are associated with this?
Well, there have been homicides which we are told are gang-related, and of course the recent kidnapping we are told is also gang-related. I prefer not to get into operational matters. The Commissioner of Police has dealt with that part of it. My statement to you this afternoon is on the government support for the actions of the police service.
Right. Did this action come from one particular thing that the police service brought to you? Because you mentioned the homicide rate so far, 200 and something. Or is it a decision that Cabinet made based on all of these murders that are happening, based on we are seeing a resurgence in violent crime, we'd like a state of emergency? Or was it one particular thing that was the catalyst for it?
Well, the report from the intelligence services yesterday gave us no choice. The state of emergency was something that as a state of emergency is a measure that the Prime Minister has advocated for some time. And that was a part of a continuing discussion with respect to treating with the unacceptable levels of crime. It was in that context that I spoke to the levels of homicide in Trinidad and Tobago.
So the information, as we could say, is the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of bringing this action.
I would go further to say that that was a precursor.
Now, this has caused some unease in the public, as you'd anticipate. Some people asking how long the SOE will last. I know that it can initially last for about 15 days, and then Parliament could extend it for about 3 months. This morning, the Commissioner said it's a fluid situation. What can you tell us in terms of how long do you all intend for this SOE to continue?
It will continue for as long as the security forces tell us that they need the additional legislative support.
Last time an SOE was called, Kamala Prasad Bisasa criticized Dr. Rowley for not attending the press briefing when that was announced to the public. So it's only fair to ask why the Prime Minister, as head of the National Security Council, is not here and why we haven't really heard from her for the day as yet.
Well, the Prime Minister is about to put out a release, and she's been commanding her troops throughout the night. I'm not sure that she has slept for 2 days.
Okay. Will there be a press briefing later with her, or just the release?
I'm not sure about a press briefing. I would advise her against it. We've had 2 now for the day.
Yeah, and before I pass it on, also in December 2024, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa called the last SOE a shameless political gimmick in the context of a high crime rate. And as you said, we've seen a resurgence of violent crime lately. What would you say to that same criticism now?
Well, I mean, it's entirely misfounded. As a lawyer, everything requires a context. We had a situation yesterday. We could not ignore that. The last state of emergency was prompted by, I'm not sure, I hate to say this, but it was prompted by nothing. And I don't wish to politicize this, but I think the Prime Minister at the time was I'm not sure if he was playing golf or if he was attending a party or something like that. I could assure you that the Prime Minister was on the phone with me after midnight last night and several times during the course of the early morning. And when I spoke to her less than 2 hours ago, she had not slept for at least 1 night and possibly 2. I asked her to go and sleep.
Good afternoon, Mr. Attorney General. Urvashi from TV6. Of course, you did mention to us that this plot is in the advanced stages of execution involving violent attacks, targeting citizens and national institutions. Can you say if this is this plot involves a mass attack?
I would prefer the Commissioner of Police to deal with the operational issues, but the intelligence reports were troubling in the extreme. This was not 2 or 3 persons engaged in activity. This is a group of highly motivated, I think the Commissioner referred to a syndicate of gangs. That's all that I like to stick to his language.
Of course, from the layman's perspective, from the regular citizen's perspective, should we avoid mass gatherings?
I would direct that question to the Commissioner of Police. It's not, of the regulations themselves do not anticipate that.
Okay, of course, you did mention the murder rate being at 213. We are just about mid-year. Could we, extrapolate that figure? It'll take us to just beyond 400, a large amount of murders for the year 2025. The commissioner has just taken his seat, and of course the government, you all have just taken your seat. There are some who are suggesting, in the same vein of the previous opposition of the UNC, describing the SOE as a shameless political gimmick. Some are suggesting that the SOE is being used as a mechanism to cosmetically suppress the murder rate without dealing with the true causes of crime.
Well, I mean, those some, as you described them, would be ignorant to the fact that yesterday the National Security Council and the Prime Minister and I were briefed on what I would describe to be an existential threat to the state. So those persons would clearly be operating under serious misapprehension of the facts.
And just two more quick questions from me. As it relates to correctional facilities being seen as the headquarters for these operations or the syndicates as mentioned, the use of cellular phones was also mentioned. Will we see a swooping down on that? And we also know that when that is done, when you take away that liberty for those in correctional facilities to communicate with their families outside, the repercussion is that prisons officers are targeted. How are we dealing with that?
Again, that's an operational issue. We have thought about it. These gangs are so sophisticated that they've planned for an eventuality similar to what has happened this morning. They have made contingency plans. We've had to get ahead of those contingency plans. So again, that's an operational issue. The commissioner is the best person to treat with that matter.
And finally, from me, we can expect Parliament to be sitting within the next 15 days?
It's a matter for the Prime Minister. If this goes on for beyond the time prescribed in the Constitution, there would be a need for the Parliament to extend the time.
Mr. Attorney General Joey Bartlett with Newsday. With respect to the National Security Council meeting yesterday, is there a specific reason the Homeland Security Minister was absent?
The Homeland Security Minister was present in the National Security Council meeting yesterday. Was he? To the best of my recollection.
And additionally, with respect to the intelligence operation that led to the SOE, did the government or our security services liaise with any international bodies, any from the US, UK to comprise this investigation, this report?
Those are operational issues best directed to the Commissioner of Police. What I can say is that we maintain very close links with our international partners, and those are very fruitful links.
Mr. Attorney General, Darren Bahon from the Newsday as well. In light of the issues of corruption in the police service and the need for vetted units, how many officers from vetted units will be trusted to deal with these, as you call it, a existential threat to the country? And how do you plan to, no, not you, but how does the government deal with that leakage from police officers, prison officers, and others in the national security apparatus?
The Commissioner of Police, who has been recently put in office, is aware of the fact that there are a number of allegations with respect to corrupt officers in his charge. He's also aware of the existence within the service of vetted units and the difficulties that we have had here, given rise to this situation of having matters take place within the prison because of prison officers who have not perhaps done their duty to country. I am told that he has taken particular care in terms of ensuring that his units, the units that are involved in interdiction and the units which are involved going forward in holding these highly dangerous persons, that those units are properly vetted.
Given the nature of the threat, which you spoke about, targeted assassinations, including members of the judiciary and the office of the DPP, can this be described as a threat to destabilize the country?
I prefer not to go further than have gone in terms of my prepared statement. I do not wish to speculate. The commissioner has given a statement as well. All that I can say is that the intelligence information that led to our actions over the past 12 hours, that information was solid.
So as we're just 2 weeks away from the 35th anniversary of the 1990 attempted coup. And of course, every time there's an anniversary of the coup, there are always coup jitters.
There are always
Coup jitters of elements trying to stabilize the country or the government or institution. Those institutions that you mentioned, the judiciary, the office of the DPP, are critical in the criminal justice system. So while you may not describe it as a threat to destabilize the country, at what level of threat would you put it in terms of 1 to 5?
again, it's an operational question. You'll have to pose that question to the Commissioner of Police. At our level, the level of representatives, the people's representatives, we were left with no choice, faced with information, credible information, that persons involved in the administration of justice and others were to be assassinated given certain contingencies. We were left with no choice but to take the most dramatic action that is possible under the Constitution. We have done that. We make no apologies for it. We have a duty to all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, whether they voted for us or not, to keep them safe and to protect against precisely that which took place in 1990. It will not happen on our watch. One more question.
Finally, from me, sir, in 2011, under the former People's Partnership government, there was a state of emergency where approximately 5,000 young men were arrested and detained under the SOE. Many of them were not charged eventually based on the fact that the police never brought any evidence to support their detentions for prolonged periods. And many of them would have benefited from handsome payouts from the Office of the Attorney General when they brought legal action. What assurance can you give now that a similar scenario would not play out?
Well, I was not the Attorney General at the time. I'm very stingy in terms of the payments which I am required to make or those which I might be required to make in the future. I have a high degree of confidence in the actions of the police service at this time. I believe that one learns from one's mistakes and that the mistakes of the past will not be repeated today.
Mr.
Attorney General, sorry.
Last question.
Yeah, you said,
Sorry, Akash, one quick
Yeah.
question. The public usually, when an SOE is called, assume is a last resort to some extent by any government. What assurance, if any, you could give the public that the government do have control over the situation right now and that all is being done so to instill confidence in the government?
Well, I mean, the fact that I am here speaking to you this
Well,
morning
it is also.
and that half of the building has not been destroyed by a rocket launcher should tell you that we have succeeded in disrupting a plan. We stand before you as representatives of people. We are being as open as is possible, given the fact that a lot of this is embargoed from released by, I mean, you protect individuals, human intelligence, as you have intercept intelligence, but you have human intelligence as well. But I can say with certainty that we're on top of things as of now.
AG, just one more thing now. Something you said to me earlier. You said the last SOE was called for nothing, inferring the president greenlighted an SOE based on nothing, as you said. Now, the same president approved this one, but I remember the then PNM government said they also received troubling information from the police service, and that's why it was necessary to call a state of emergency. And you are essentially saying the same thing. So how can you deem that a nothing SOE, but this one a legit SOE?
I was hoping that you would ask that question, Akash. If you have a the reason is this: if you have a state of emergency, which carries with it all the correct words to the president has to make the declaration. But sometimes actions speak louder than words. So if at the very time you tell the president to act to declare a state of emergency, you are on record somewhere else, perhaps not in Trinidad, perhaps not doing nothing remotely connected with security, maybe even at a party. I'm just saying, if that happened, I mean, that belies the fact that you are taking things seriously. So I'm sorry, but I stand by what I said. It was based on the actions of a prime minister who was not asleep at the wheel, but elsewhere, and having fun, while the rest of his cabinet might have been facing you. My prime minister is not having fun. She's not on a golf course. She's not at a party. She's at her house commanding her troops, including me.
And you made reference.
That
was actually what I was going to ask.
My life, I am not bothered by things like that. So, thank you.
Is the AG's office being targeted? You mentioned the rocket launcher just now, and the fact that the building is still here.
Thank you, Ikash. I'm all good. I'm all good. Thanks a lot.
You are dearer to me than all the stars. So many wish but never reach. 'Cause when I'm falling and all the world seems dark, you help me find my peace. Oh, shun mi ba fishani. Oh, shun mi ba.
I'm Renee Sion with another edition of Caribbean Week in Review.